Hello Notre Dame families, this is Mrs. Bannister again from our art room at Abbott Road. I'm here just to share with you a quick activity that you can do over Easter break with your children, and this is a fun collaborative thing, so you could do a little bit and they can do a little bit as well. We have been working with weaving this past few weeks. Students have been practicing weaving with paper and creating some cool designs on them, and we have a loom in our classroom that we've been playing with yarn as well. So I thought we could take that weaving technique and apply it to our Easter eggs. So the first thing you want to do is just get your supplies. I've got a piece of just regular construction paper. I chose a lighter color, it's just a little easier to see the drawn elements. And then I've got some strips of paper that have been cut. You know, an inch is good, but some of them are various sizes and spring colors. I got my glue stick, I got my scissors, and I have some colored pencils just for adding some fun details. Once you have finished weaving, you can, or your child, you guys can work together to create some cool patterns in the empty spaces. So to get started, and this is one of the easiest ways to start weaving, and you can apply this to any kind of weaving, shape, color. You just want to fold your paper in half. And it'll make this so much easier to set up your loom. And I just have a simple roll of ribbon to use as a guide. You can always find templates around your house, a pot or a pan, just to give yourself a nice curve. It just makes it so much easier. And I'm just gonna trace the top part of my curve. So I have the top part of my egg, and then I'll use my ruler to create the straight edges. And if you don't like rulers, don't worry, you can just free draw it. Okay, once I have that started, I'm going to draw a line across here, and my students will recognize this. This is kind of like the top of our weaving, and we need that top to give us a guide for where we're gonna cut and where we're gonna stop cutting. So from here, you can either measure it if you'd like, or you can kind of eyeball it. I'm gonna do every half an inch. I'm just gonna make a mark. And if you do it consistently, then your weaving will look really nice and even, but if it's not, it's still fun because you're doing it together. And then I'm going to just draw those lines straight down, and that's just gonna give me a guide for where I'm gonna cut. And if you look at this, you're like, maybe I don't wanna weave every half an inch. You can just cut the inch lines, and that's fine too. So I'm just going across, drawing those lines, nice and straight, give my scissors a guide. Okay. And now I'm gonna cut from the folded edge, and my students will recognize this too. I'm gonna cut from the folded edge up and stop at that line, and that'll just give me my warp. So second, third, and fourth graders will know what the warp is. The warp is kind of the base of our weaving. So I'm just cutting those lines. I'm using the back of the scissors because that is where I have the most control, and you're cutting 2 pieces of paper, so that's a really great thing to teach your children. When you're practicing scissor skills at home, use the back of your scissors because you can cut through double paper. Okay, so I'm gonna just do, I just did every inch here just to make it a little simpler. And you wanna cut out your shape as well, and I meant to do that first, but that's just fine. We'll cut out our curve for our egg. And then we'll get to weaving. So exciting. And this is something that I think all kids really enjoy because it's tactile, it's a skill that they can apply throughout their lives. I love teaching it with the kids, and I think that we've all felt really proud of ourselves when we are successful. So now I'm gonna bring in my paper strips, and I'm just gonna start weaving. So typically you just go over, under, over, under. Okay, so I have a few strips that I've woven in, and just kind of remember it's under, over, and then the next row you want to do the opposite. So I always tell the kids it looks like a checkerboard, and I was surprised at how many of them didn't know what a checkerboard was. So another fun activity you could do over spring break if you're bored. But I have these colors so far, and I'm gonna try to find, where's my dark pink? Put a dark pink strip in. So if I started under here, I'll start with over. And you can either push the strip kind of from below, like that. Kind of weave it through and kind of pull it from behind. There's a lot of different techniques. I think every child kind of comes up with their own best practices. I'm struggling right now just because it's the last strip and that's a little bit tight. And I'm just kind of weaving that through. There. Okay. That looks great. And I got my spring colors, beautiful. So now what I can do is glue down these ends. When you're weaving with fabric, you would tie those ends, but we're just gonna glue these down, and this is something that any age level can do to help out. And then once you have all the ends glued down, you can trim off your excess. And you can even alter your shape a little bit. If you wanna make it feel a little bit more egg shape, like I did with my blue one here, I did taper the top a little bit just to make it look a little bit more of an egg shape. You can easily do that. So now that they're all glued down, I can go around and just trim off the extra. And you have some space around, so I'll kind of taper this side. And I'll come over here and cut those ends off. And maybe even flatten out the bottom just a tiny bit, just to give it that egg shape. There. So you have a beautiful woven craft you could do with your family. And then I have some colored pencils here that I could use to just draw in some cool designs. You could draw, I have some tulips, you could draw some leaves on yours. You could draw a cross. Whatever you like. And again, this is something that any age level could do, and you guys could kind of make it together and display them in your window or on your door. So yeah, a lot of possibilities, a lot of fun working with paper as always, and I hope you guys enjoy this. Have a great break.